My name is Liz Shephard. I run a company here in New Orleans called LifeCity. We consider LifeCity a for-benefit organization. We make money. We are a self-sustaining organization. However, we also are completely mission-driven. And it's weird to talk to someone who thinks, wait, aren't you a nonprofit? Because you seem really mission-driven. No, we're a company. Well, so it's still kind of confusing to folks. So you see the emergence of what's called a for-benefit organization, and there's new need to support that type of organization in the ecosystem, in policy, in legal structures, and other ways so that those organizations can thrive as well. Similarly, we actually, Jenna and I met recently. There was a conference up at Harvard that was just geared to growing the fourth sector. And they threw out some really interesting ideas. First of all, 90% of consumers want to support the conscious company. So if you're a business, you better start thinking about your mission, and you better start thinking about natural capital. Secondly, as we saw today, if we don't exist here, then no business can be done here. So business needs to think beyond itself in order to be successful. It's also been shown that certified companies do better. If your company is certified, you're more likely to succeed. And finally, your collaborative advantage is your competitive advantage. It's no longer, thinking about how you can, make yourself competing against every single person, but how do you collaborate and leverage? How can you produce something collaboratively? How do you consume something collaboratively? And so these are some of the shifts we're seeing in the economy. So similarly, if the type of organization is changing, and can I get some nods if people are kind of like, yeah, I can see this trend. Yeah, it's just kind of, yeah, all right, okay. Okay, so if organizations are shifting, then the way we grow organizations is also shifting. So you see, economic development that's traditionally jobs, 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 money, money, money. That's all I care about. It's becoming a lot more interested in community development goals. So how can we create green jobs? How do we create high-quality jobs? How do we create jobs while also restoring our stormwater management systems here in New Orleans? Similarly, community developers who are trying to meet social needs are saying, how do we access this financial capital, the financial markets, to really leverage that power to make our social solutions scalable? And so a lot of community developers are interested in using economic development strategies. And so the pattern that you're seeing is a multiple capital or complete capital approach. And we saw that in the video today. When you have different types of capital all going forward and you're looking at the system as a whole, you're going to be more likely to succeed in creating those jobs and creating that wealth that you want to see. So a complete capital approach is really what we're looking for. This new type of development that's growing the for-benefit, you can call it shared value. There's tons of buzzwords out there. It's not really the words that matter, but the idea that it's cross-sector. It's about wealth. It's about multiple types of wealth. It's about broad stakeholder engagement and earned income. So this is the type of development that we're looking at. So I just wanted to set the stage there of the sort of context and the shifts that we're seeing in our economy. And now I'd like to introduce Jenna. I'll scroll through some definitions here. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the fourth sector is just what some folks are calling the emergence of the for-benefit organization. And the impact economy, which we refer to today, makes up social enterprises and those who support them, including their impact investors. So it's a real honor to be up on this panel today. Jenna is one of my heroes. She doesn't know that, so. But you really are. She's the co-founder and CEO of a social enterprise called Phoenix Global Impact. And Phoenix Global Impact is a consulting firm that specializes in helping leaders in the fields of impact investing, social entrepreneurship, and strategic philanthropy. Through investment advisory, strategy, consulting, and research-driven business development support, Phoenix Global works to magnify its clients' impact and promote a more sustainable and just society. So she's going to speak about her experience, and she's got incredible experience in the field of people who are really on the edge of this movement, who are really paving the path forward. So we'll look to hear from her.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be with you. And Liz is one of my heroes, so it's a pleasure to be with her on the stage. So there's three things that I'd like to talk about today. One is how did I get here and just sharing a few stories. And the other, interesting enough, is like some of the unique synergies between China and New Orleans, and especially given that the focus today is around water. I see this a lot in the water space. And then this third piece of talent, time, and trust, which builds upon a lot of what Liz was referring to in terms of these different types of capital, so this social capital, human capital. And so we'll discuss that a bit further. And then we would really, Liz is going to share a few more remarks at the end, and then we'd love to open up and engage with you and hear your thoughts and perspectives as well. So I'd like to just start and talk a little bit about some of the work that we've been doing around the world and also here in New Orleans. So I work with Darren Dodson here, who used to work at the Idea Village, and we work with the Calvert funds, and we invest in socially responsible companies and impact-orientated funds. And I had the opportunity to begin to work with Calvert actually through some of our work in China. And you spent a lot of time growing up working in Congo and in India and other places, and really feel privileged, and I think this is the case with many of the people in the room, to be able to pursue careers where there is this alignment between values and the work that we're doing. I think this is what underlies a lot of what Liz was describing in terms of this impact economy and shared value. Really what it comes down to is alignment, an alignment between the things that when people say, what do you truly care about, and then what are you actually doing with your work, how do we achieve more of that alignment? And so some of the companies that through Calvert we've had the opportunity to invest in, you really see that. And one of them that many of you may know is Kickboard here in New Orleans, an education technology company that rather than just focusing on academics, looks at the whole person. And I think is a great example of rather than just focusing on maximizing profit, is also really focused on the social impact of the work that they're doing. Another company here in New Orleans is Bioceptive, and they're focused on IUD inserters and making these more accessible to people in developing countries, which is a huge issue for women. And again, locally grown here and really integrating this social impact with the financial returns. And we've also had the chance to invest in a water technology company called Spring Health, which is based in India and is focused on the last mile distribution for customers there. Again, it's sort of a bottom of the pyramid company and really engaged with the local community there with a visionary leader in Paul Pollock. And so through all this work I've been doing with Calvert and engaging with many of these companies, one of the issues that comes up time and time again is this question of talent. And so what we see is that these organizations, for them to thrive, it really depends upon their ability to be able to attract top talent. And I know that we'll be talking about the Tulane Prize around water, and I mean Tulane has really been a visionary university in terms of integrating students in social entrepreneurship, and other universities are trying to follow suit. But really you see these people that are emerging from some of the best universities in the country and around the world that want to pursue this type of work, but find it challenging to find the opportunities to do so. So this disconnect between talented people trying to find opportunity and amazing organizations, whether it's on the funding side or the entrepreneur side, that is trying to attract that talent, and how to bridge that gap. And so that was really the inspiration for us around funding, around starting Phoenix Global Impact, was to try to bridge this divide. So we've been working, Liz is going to talk a bit about social impact bonds, and we've been working with the World Bank around social impact bonds and looking what they could be doing in that space. And social impact bonds are a great structure of public-private partnerships, as Liz was talking about. We've been working with the Wallace Global Fund around this divest, invest, which is around foundations divesting their assets from investing in fossil fuels and then reinvesting in renewable energy. And what's interesting about that is particularly the application to water, both on the kind of private equity and the public equity side, looking at different water technology solutions. That's been emerged from this pool of capital that's coming up through this work. But we've also been working with other foundations and funds on this. And one of the companies that we've had the opportunity to work with is in China, and it's called United Water International. And it's a Swedish water technology, and it's particularly focused on purification of groundwater and surface water. And one of the things, as I was thinking about a lot of the work that we do in China, and hearing and learning more over these past few days about some of the issues here in New Orleans, of seeing this connection. And one of the key pieces, and we've seen this with this company, is the role that the government plays in terms of supporting local entrepreneurs. And so they've partnered with a number of municipalities across China to set up these aquifers for purifying the water from groundwater and surface water from metals and arsenic. And incredible technology, but if it wasn't for that local government support, it would be impossible for them to be able to do this work. And so again, this private-public partnership for impact, we're seeing this with many, many case studies around this. And similarly, and I put up a slide about China and New Orleans. I think one of the things is jazz and its community development. And so we see, in Shanghai, for example, there was a huge influx of the French in the 20s, and so there's this big jazz culture there, which obviously is the essence here in New Orleans. And it may seem like a funny thing to focus on, but one of the things, and coming back to this talent piece that's so key in all of this work, is really how are people engaging with their community. And I think jazz is a great example of that, but through dance, through singing, to actually engage people in that way. And you see that similar in China just as much as you see it here in New Orleans. And so just to come back to these three key areas of talent, time, and trust. So talent we've talked about, but time. So when we were talking about this financial capital, and we saw this in the video as well, where financial capital is often always the piece that we always think about when we think about investing and supporting these companies. But actually, a big part of it, and one of the limiting factors for so many of these companies and funds, is actually time. And so, we try to do that by providing these consultants and these support to these companies, but I think it applies to all of us in the room as we think about what are the assets that we have to provide in this work. We may not necessarily have a huge amount of financial capital to provide, but it might be the guidance and the support and the connections and the other types of support that we're able to provide may be incredibly enriching. And so thinking about the role that can play is huge. And then similarly, trust, and this comes back to this community development piece, to the extent to which that's the bedrock and the foundation of our engagements in this work. It's key to the success of anything that we're trying to do. So I'd like to end this bit just with a quotation that's out of an inspiration to me, and again, coming back to the power of each of us here to be able to kind of pursue this meaningful work. And it's, the honor and distinction of the individual consists in this, that he, among all the world's multitudes, become a source of social good. So that's referring to every single one of us in this room, and I'm going to pass back to Liz to talk a bit more, and then love to engage with all of you. So thank you.
So how do we take that step? How do we, each of us, become a source of social good? I know I work with Kirk Coco, who he tells me, Liz, there's three things about my company that matter to me. First, I got to make really good beer. But then I've got to make sure I'm taking care of my team, and then I'm going to make sure I'm taking care of my environment. And he has that triple bottom line, that mission approach, and he has the trust of the community, and people do buy his beer, and it's great beer, so you should go have one later today. But getting back into how do each of us sitting here, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're someone who supports entrepreneurs, or you're an investor, how do we get involved here locally and make this happen here in New Orleans? And I'm here to share with you today an initiative called Value NOLA, and it's really easy to understand what we're trying to do with Value NOLA, I think, through the Water Challenge today. And really, the Water Challenge, you were participating in one of the best examples of this work, of that shared alignment, right? Because we are here, and we're here participating in the Water Challenge because we want good, healthy water in our community, and we also want to create great jobs in our community, and we're trying to find those entrepreneurs today that are going to help us do that. And the Greater New Orleans Foundation, a foundation partnering with a nonprofit to help grow private institutions, that type of public-private partnership is exactly what we're talking about doing. And so we want to create more challenges like the Water Challenge. And Propeller, Andrea Chen's here today too, and she also does similar work with Pitch NOLA. How can we create pitch contests that align market solutions to social and environmental problems? So there's a ton of work already being done. So it's not to say that this is something new, but how do we engage it and coordinate it in a really effective way here locally? And so I'm going to reference this ecosystem, this beautiful poster here. The different colors that you're seeing, those are representing different sectors, the private, public, and social sectors. And we need to map all of the sectors to be able to really understand how we can collaborate better. And that's one of our goals with Value NOLA, is to map the fourth sector. Who are the people who want to support triple bottom line companies, who want to participate in these cross-sector partners? If you're one of them, come talk to me. Let's figure out how we can work with you. But in order to do this work, we have a steering committee called the NOLA Innovation Think Tank. And that group of people represents different sectors of the economy that are working together, and we're focusing on a few sectors initially, but we're working to make that idea known. We can align these values of financial capital and social, human, natural capital into one goal, and we can make money doing it. And so what this initiative is trying to do is define and measure value, because if you don't know what you're talking about, where do you go from there? Coordinate the growth of for-benefit organizations in our community, create incentives both politically and socially to help reward the people who are participating as for-benefits, and then connect capital, talent, and time resources for these organizations, and then to market those for-benefit organizations in New Orleans and help them continue to grow. So that's what our initiative is as part of Value NOLA. Right now we're working in three particular sectors, because you can work across the board, but let's be honest, every sector faces its own challenges and its own metrics and its own technical assistance needs. So we're going to be focusing on these three areas initially. With just taking manufacturing as an example, we can connect all these different groups in our community, economic developers, technical assistance providers, go into these manufacturers, find cost savings and for-benefit opportunities, help them become more like a for-benefit, and in that process, find impact investing opportunities that we can then align to an impact fund in our community. So one of the things we're looking at potentially doing is creating a social impact bond, because right now the current access to capital that these manufacturers have is, the federal government provides technical assistance to the LSBDC Job 1, Manufacturing Extension Communities Partnership, and then they individually go and visit these companies. Well, these companies get really confused, like who's talking to who? Can't you all just talk to each other? And so the idea is, well, what if we could connect all of these players together with an intermediary organization, which is what a social impact bond uses. And we organize those technical assistance programs. We go into the manufacturing facility, provide that technical assistance, and then in turn find impact investment opportunities, which then can be measured in tax revenue or other ways, and potentially could ultimately be funded by a PRI or a social impact bond. And in this process, also find investment opportunities that we could connect to impact investors. So this is a model that we're really interested in exploring here in New Orleans. And so if anyone is interested in working with us, we definitely would love to partner with you. In summary, again, what we're trying to do in growing the fourth sector here with Value NOLA is engage community ownership processes, and also impact investment capital, and integrating customized technical assistance sector by sector to ultimately grow for-benefit organizations in our community. There's a lot of people that we need to work with in order to make that possible, but I want to end with this as a kind of a model that we're using, and we would love your questions about this whole movement. Any questions are good questions, and we'd love to invite you to join us with Value NOLA. And we have a launch party actually celebrating the Water Challenge this evening at 5 o'clock at Cafe Carmo. It's going to be great food and drinks and music and celebration to launch this really exciting cross-sector initiative. So we're really thrilled, and we really welcome your partnership. So thank you.
Are you asking for questions from the audience?
Yes.
Please, I see one.
Jenna, I have a question about PRIs. I'm a social enterprise, and would you talk a little bit more about how social enterprises can make themselves known to institutions that are doing PRIs?
It's a great question, and actually it's one of the main projects that we're working on right now is with the MacArthur Foundation around this exact issue. And just for some context, so PRIs are program-related investments, and this is for foundations when they think about the assets that they have. Traditionally have often just thought, oh, we're grant-giving organizations, and they just provide grants to organizations. But what's been an initiative over the last really 5 to 10 years is that particularly some of the larger foundations have started to think about how they could allocate part of and it's normally 5% of their assets towards, rather than just giving to organizations, actually investing in social enterprises. One of the challenges is, which is coming up from this question, is that so often it's for social entrepreneurs when they're thinking about trying to access this capital, the process of even knowing, well, what is the focus of this foundation? How do we navigate the opportunities and apply it is a big challenge. And so I'd love to talk more in person with you about this. But on a general level, one of the things I would really recommend is that there's a lot of the foundations that have PRIs dedicate a certain amount of their time for broader advice. So I know, for example, she's going to kill me if I am saying this so publicly, but the lady who runs the program-related investments for MacArthur Foundation spends a lot of her time talking to entrepreneurs like yourselves to actually help them to navigate that, because there is very little that is online. One organization that's worth checking out is Mission Investors Exchange. So this is an organization that actually brings together pretty much majority of the foundations that are doing program-related investments. They have an annual conference, they have webinars, they have papers that they write about this. And that helps to give a bit of a navigation of what some of the foundations that are focusing on. But I would also strongly encourage you to look at foundations that are in the sector of work that you're focused on, and actually reach out to them, because I've been surprised at actually just how responsive foundations are to having more like informational interviews, of just really understanding what they're looking for, and that'll help you in terms of how to structure the process there. And I think also connecting with local incubators who have connections to foundations in the community is also really key. But would love to spend some more time and understand your particular interests as well.
Let's give him a round of applause. Do you have any closing statements you'd like to make?
No, any other questions, or are we probably out of time, huh? Okay.
Okay, well, thanks so much.
Thank you,
Look
yeah.
forward to talking more.
Okay.